Like digital marketing, SEO changes all the time. Google releases new updates very often, sometimes with very little impact and sometimes with huge impact. If you're competitive or in a competitive space with your business, to say the least, you would want to grow fast. Or if branding is your goal, then hiring a quality SEO professional or company is going to be one of your most important investments to make. Trust me on that one, and I'll break that down as to why that exactly is as we progress through the rest of this lesson. Before approaching this, it's always a good idea to do your research though. Which keywords do you want to rank for, and are they realistic? Very important questions to ask. You also need to understand that where you would appear on a search engine results page could change every single day. There is no guarantee that you will be at the top, and there's no guarantee that you'll stay on the 10th page of the search result. And please don't become one of those people who searches your own brand name and then demands to know why it didn't appear on the first page. You have to start somewhere. Your search history affects your results. So even if you've been searching your brand quite often, for example, and you haven't actually clicked on any of the searches, then Google might deem that as a result, that result specifically as irrelevant. And so they will no longer show to you, right? Just keep that in mind. And also if you offer local services or your brick and mortar store, local results will be different to other results. We're going to jump into it now. It's a really big topic, so I really hope that you have your pen and paper on hand so that you can take down as many notes as you possibly can. So first of all, we have on-page SEO. And on-page SEO is the practice of optimizing individual web pages in order to rank higher and earn more relevant traffic in search engines. So not only Google, but Google is one of the biggest. On-page refers to both the content and the HTML. You know that one. It's the source code of a page that can be optimized. All right, we've already covered that and we'll continue to as we progress through this entire course. The on-page ranking factors are content, title tags, meta tags, URLs, and alt text. And I'm going to be going through all of those in a bit more detail now so that you can obviously understand them. First up, we have content. Content obviously needs to be relevant and clear. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. It also needs to be unique and regular. If you have duplicate content on your site from another site, you will be penalized, okay? Updating your site regularly signals to Google that you have a quality website. It also needs to be content that supplies a demand. If you remember when we first looked at target markets and the elements of a target market statement, you basically need to ask yourself, in this case, what is the problem that your content is trying to solve? Or does your supply meet the demand that is currently existing in the marketplace? All right? Are you servicing the demand? That's a very important question to ask in the content that you are posting. And then it needs to be linkable. So you want other publishers to be able to link your content to their pages as well. It's very important to obviously get that awareness and obviously help streamline some sort of traffic directly to your site. This is even more of a signal to Google and other search engines that your site is relevant and a great way to increase your overall activity. Then we have title tags, and title tags is an HTML element specifying the title of a page. They are obviously clickable headlines that you see in organic search engine results page, and that's what it stands for essentially. They are recommended to between 50 to 60 characters in length, so the search engine, let's just say Google, doesn't cut it off. All right, very important to ensure you get that right. If your title tags are duplicated anywhere, this will obviously affect your ranking as well. Then you should also just focus on avoiding keyword stuffing. And that's really just the packaging of a small amount of content with a ton of keywords. And it really just looks like one big fake ad. So please make sure that you avoid that because it's really not that pleasing to look at. I also recommend that you avoid the default titles like home or product page. Okay, that's just really outdated and it needs to be innovated and improved in order to improve engagement. They are often proven to reduce the click-through rates, so something more informative and relevant would be better. Include your brand if it has a strong presence, and finally, think about your customers when writing them. Don't think about yourself and what you wanted to say. Think about their overall user experience as well. Right? Think about what they will relate to more. Looking at the meta tags give an explanation of what is on the title page. Search engines like Google often display the meta descriptions of their search results. It should only be up to around 160 characters long. Again, if it's longer, then Google and other search engines will cut it off. So use some sort of keywords that you want to rank in the form of a meta tag. But again, don't overdo it, as it will give you the opposite of your desired result. And try and use it as a writing an ad. Try and see it as writing an ad, for example. And Google doesn't take meta tags from other keywords into account, so please do remember that, and actually write that down in your notes so you remember it moving forward too. But as these have a different effect on your CTRs, by default it does impact your ranking as well. Right, so URLs. So these show the hierarchy of the information on the page. A good example of a URL is here on the left, and we see a very bad example of a URL on the right. So the first one shows a hierarchy of the information on the page. It's a history, and it pertains to digital marketing in the context of marketing more specifically. The information is used to determine the relevancy of a given web page by the search engine due to the hierarchy. The engines can assume that the page likely doesn't pertain to history in general, but rather to that of history of digital marketing. On the other hand, the URL on the right tells the user absolutely nothing, and due to this, the search engine won't really necessarily see it as a relevant search result as all. So you can immediately see the difference and obviously why it would have such a big impact for us. Alt text describes the appearance of the images on your site. If someone is visually impaired, this would be read out to them. It will also be displayed in place of an image if it failed to load for whatever reason. They also could provide better image context to search engine crawlers, helping them index it properly too. We're going to go into that a bit more in just a minute, but just understand, for example, a bad example of an alt tag is this beautiful lady here being described as what could just be a dress, right? Whereas a good example would be beautiful woman wearing a red dress. Alright, it's a bit more descriptive and obviously leads the alt text to explaining a bit more in detail about what's going on the page. After on-page SEO, we have off-page SEO. This is far more difficult to get right than on-page SEO, and I think it's a part of what makes SEO seem so mysterious. We aren't going to go into too much detail on this, just because it is a bit more advanced, but I will take you through a few things. So off-page SEO simply refers to all the activities that you and your customers do away from your website to increase the ranking of a page within the search engines. The off-page ranking factors are links, and this is referring to links on your site, not to your site. Please remember that difference. So things like referrals, social media links, other publishers linking to you, brand mentions. Also, without links there can't be that factor. Trust, which has to do with your reputation and if you have a security certificate on your site. So that's the difference between an HTTP and a HTTPS. Social is a big drop-off page ranking factor, including things like links, shared reviews and other engagements could definitely help paint a clearer picture around understanding that social element. And then the history of your site and the brand and your reputation that goes with it. This is also a factor and must be mentioned and obviously well understood in order to get right. And I actually think that this is why SEO can be so hard to actually get right. It gets quite complicated at times, but if we can just categorize our understanding of it, then obviously applying it for ourselves and our own businesses would make so much more sense. But just remember, if you keep your brand clean and you respond to criticism and you provide quality content, then your chances are much higher for rankings. And the rankings is what it all comes down to. It can get a little bit overwhelming, as I mentioned, but if we just focus on what matters to us the most and what we have direct control over, then we'll certainly focus on working on those ranking factors to the best of our ability from the start. So just focus on what you have immediate control over. An integral part of keeping tabs on your SEO efforts is the Google Search Console. Please take that down in your notes. The Google Search Console. If we talk about direct access to what we have control over right away, it all starts off with that Google Search Console. The Google Search Console is where you can optimize content by finding out which queries brings users to the site. You can analyze the site impressions, clicks, and your position on Google too. And also, It can be integrated with Google Ads, which gives you the ability to see performance of paid versus organic traffic. To link it to your site, you need to log onto your Google Search Console with your Google account details. You'll then be asked to select a property type, either a domain or URL, and then you need to enter that URL to continue. You'll be asked to verify the domain ownership. I mean, think about it. If anyone could claim a site, there would be absolute havoc, right? There'd be a long line outside the claims office. You would also have to add a piece of code into your DNS configuration. You would find this within whichever CMS that you're using to manage your site, just because it's of absolute importance. So let's have a look at some of the features that Google Search Console provides us with. Optimize content. So this is what I was talking about earlier with regards to seeing queries that bring people to your site. You would then make sure that you include the keywords in feature copy. Organic metrics are straightforward. You can view and analyze these pretty easily and on the go. Likewise, position on search engine result pages is pretty straightforward too. You can see those within Search Console. And just as a side note, if it's not like Google Ads directly, okay, where there is only 8 positions. In this case, there are hundreds, and it's essentially a whole internet where you are then in the grand scheme of things. You can integrate Google Search Console and Google Ads to see performance of organic versus paid traffic too, which is really interesting to really get into the wormhole of. You can also submit sitemaps and individual URLs for crawling. And you can also review your index coverage to make sure that Google has the freshest view of your site. Now, I'll be translating those sentences in just a minute, so don't get too ahead of where we are right now and a little bit worried about what these contextual meanings means or theoretical sentences mean. We'll dive into unpacking them in just a bit. But you can also receive alerts on different issues that are ongoing on the site. So Google will notify you with specific URLs are affected and which specific URLs that is, and also what the errors are. So you can actually monitor and track the AMP pages very closely so that you can stay up to date with what's going on. And remember, AMP stands for Amplified Mobile Pages, and are a way for Google to show you pages a lot quicker on mobile devices than what you would see them if you were just logging into a random URL going through your search browser on the phone. Okay, so obviously this is something that we'll be covering in a bit more detail later on, so don't worry about that too much, all right, about the complicated theoretical ideas or theoretical content. All right, it sometimes sounds a bit advanced in the moment, but the moment you unpack it, you see how easy it is to actually understand. So don't get too ahead of where we are just yet. So none of this work is actually done by humans, by the way. I think it's worth mentioning. It's all actually automated. There is no humans looking into the websites on the internet, but the so-called Google bots are doing all the heavy lifting for us, because they've been coded to obviously look in the right avenues, all right, to be there working for us and with us at times. So what Google bots are and what they do is very specific. A bot is really just a program that can interact with different systems. That's what it comes down to. So Google bots crawl and index the internet, of which your site is a part of, right? Looking at and crawling is when a bot looks at all the content and code on your pages and then analyzes it. Indexing is seeing if the page is eligible to show up in search results. So essentially, Google bots basically look at the content on your page to determine if it can be eligible to show up in search results. It's quite an interesting concept if you think about it. It's estimated that Google bots take 3 months to index a new site. According to boostability.com, if your site is older and not experiencing crawling, your design could be an issue. When bots can't access your site, it decreases your ranking. So it's very important to make sure that it's user friendly. So how do they all know where to look on your site then? It's something called a site map, which is essentially a list of all the pages on your site in order of importance. A site map tells Google bots what pages to index. They tell Google how often you update your content too. So it's recommended to submit your sitemap each time you publish changes. This could actually lead Google to indexing your site a lot faster than what it generally would. I can never give you an exact estimation of how often Google will index your site, or if they will actually get to it at all, depending on what the setup or layout is like, but it completely differs from time to time. Clearly, and more obviously, the bigger sites are indexed a lot more often than what the average site is, but we'll get into how we can boost our index on our site in a lot more detail as we progress. You can check if your site has been indexed by typing in a site websitename.com or .org, whatever the ending to your website link might be. Obviously, don't include the quotation marks here, but it's obviously just something that I need to quote. That's why they're there. But go ahead, if you do have a website, just check out if your website has been indexed. It's always quite a surprising result when you can get down to that factor. All right, it's always very, very interesting, especially if you have a new website set up and you want to actually see if Google has recognized it properly yet, or if it has been indexed. It's always very interesting. Something that is great for local SEO is a Google My Business page. I really do suggest this. It's a free tool that lets you manage how your business appears on Google Search and Google Maps. That includes your business name, your location and hours, monitoring your replying to customer reviews, adding photos, learning where and how people are searching you, and much more as well. You'd start off simply by searching Google My Business, at which point you'll then be directed to this page. So what you need to do is easy. Just click on Start Now. All right, that's a great way to start. And obviously you need to register your business correctly so it recognizes which page to actually start working on. If you already have a business but haven't claimed it yet, you would need to search for it at the top of the page. And this would avoid a few of the steps in between, but you would still be filling out the same information just within what looks like a completed Google My Business profile. If you don't have a listing, you would choose to add your business to Google, and then you would follow the prompted steps that go on from there. You then need to obviously add your company name, and then choose whether you want to include the location or not. Right, that's completely up to you. Obviously, some of the businesses either don't have a location. For example, maybe you could be working from home, or maybe it's an online retail shop that you don't want to list the location for. Whatever the reason may be, it is entirely up to you and obviously must align with the business itself. If you choose the option to include a location, you'll be asked to input your address, and obviously you need to make sure it's 100% accurate, especially if you rely on people visiting your store. It's vitally important that you actually include a very valid address, or else people aren't going to be able to find your maps, navigate to your business when using navigation systems that run off Google Maps as a data provider. But also you just want to ensure that you ensure some sort of legitimacy to your business. If it's a half-beated address that you've included there and doesn't really have all the details that it needs to, such as a postal code or a suburb, but just has a street address, it's not really going to look too legit. So it's very important that you include as much detail there as you possibly can. Finally, you would choose which details you want to show your customers in the extra bit in the search results, which then could of course include your contact details, right? You don't always need to have your contact details there because that is listed on your site. However, it does show a bit more legitimacy, for example. And then voila, you're done pretty much. You have a Google My Business page. It's all pretty simple, and it all really depends on how you want to be positioned and what information you want to portray to the customers. All up to you, but the more the merrier, there's no doubt to that. After creating this page, you need to verify it. And there are several ways you can actually do that. One is by postcard, believe it or not. And then obviously phone, email, instant verification, and bulk verification. You need to just make sure that you choose the best option for your efficiency and effectiveness of achieving this goal in your business. But just make sure that you do it for each location that you are listed in. Part of Google My Business is maps, and you need to take this into consideration. Nowadays, when people are searching for something, they are not looking through the yellow pages, or they're not looking through a local phone book or going to a library or whatever it may be. They're going to their handheld devices or their computers, and they're searching for specific things that have very specific keywords noted in them, and you want to fall a part of the results that pop up. It's vitally important that you establish yourself as a provider to the searches in the results that people are obviously that people have popping up in front of them. It's very important that you establish yourself, ladies and gents. Nowadays, a business that is not established on Google really doesn't have much validation or some sort of reference it needs to be a good player in the game of that industry in today's world. I mean, if you're not listed on Google, you might as well be completely invisible to the potential client. You might as well just not exist. And quite honestly, if you don't exist on Google, people tend to steer away from even thinking about you as an option. They might just hear about you, but then if you don't appear via word of mouth, for instance, but if you don't appear on a Google search, then people are less inclined to actually utilize your services or buy your products, because obviously they have no reference to go and double check themselves or do their due diligence on. It's very important that you make sure you spend some time stating your presence on Google so that you can appear on maps and obviously show people where you are, and obviously give some sort of a contact to as well. It's very, very, very important that we do that. Some other very important points to remember when it comes to your Google My Business page is that your profile photo is what appears when you upload new photos, videos, or even reviews to responses. So it's important to make sure that it's good, high quality and relevant content that's very easily identifiable without having to go in and download it and maximize the image, or zoom in this case. The Google My Business cover photo is one of the most important, as it shows up front center to the listing. You can also add videos to this as well, but pictures are probably more relevant, as people don't necessarily always go into those photos. They just want to see a high quality pop-up just to ensure that they have searched the right page. And then reviews. Reviews are very, very important to make sure that we're on top of, because they're viewable to the listing. As soon as your business pops up, then the reviews will too. And obviously that speaks a lot to who you are, what you do, and how well you have done it as well. So please always make sure that you do respond to the reviews, because that includes some sort of ranking system that Google will obviously filter through and obviously rank your response time on, and the quality of your responses too, which people can engage with. And the better your ranking and the better your response to the reviews, the better your overall positioning will be too. Suggest and edit, as you can see I've highlighted it on the listing, is where people can obviously suggest and edit to the information being provided, and sometimes it can get approved without you actually knowing. So it's very important to log onto your business profile as often as possible, and also just make sure that no one is doing anything funny to your listing and it's positioned the way that you intended to without any unauthorized changes. Okay.